I really come from a family of gem dealers. In fact, I'm the 5th generation in the business, right? And we, the business that, the gem business that they used to do was not what I'm doing right now. They were, selling the bigger stones, like the single pieces, and, supplying buyers individual stones. In my case, I was not interested in that typical, the regular gem business that my dad did, or my uncles, or anyone did at that time. So I started working with one of my uncles from Japan, and he gave me an option when I started. Really, it was a training process. He asked me whether I wanted to do diamonds or colored stones, and I said, okay, I'll get into colored stones. But he says, never mind, even if you do colored stones, work in my diamond factory first. I was wondering what he meant by that. Really, what he meant was he wanted me to cut the colored stones just like diamonds. There was a deep meaning to that. So I worked in the factory, and in fact, even though he was my uncle, he put me at the bottom level, and he taught me the full process of cutting and polishing a diamond. And at that time, in the 90s, the Sri Lankan industry, we were known. Okay, we could cut a stone really nice, we could retain the color, but because most people cut bigger stones, they did not care about, the weight being retained in the stone, because those stones anyways was very expensive. We didn't have a calibrated gemstone industry at that time, right? It was very small. So when I started, my uncle straight away, he got me some orders from Japan, and Japan was very active at that time in the sapphire business. Now things are a little slow in Japan, but that time Japan was the market. And then straight away I got some orders. I didn't know what I was doing. They said, give us 2 to 4 millimeter size squares, which is princess cut, in huge quantities. So I just got into it, and I learnt by just getting into it without knowing anything, which is a blessing in disguise, right? Because if you know, say I was doing the bigger stones, I would have known only that kind of cutting. I got into diamonds, and I learned to cut. Diamonds are anyway cut very perfectly, right? They use a lot of precision. So the same technology I used to cut sapphires. Of course it's different, but in whatever way possible, I try to take whatever knowledge I had in the diamonds and introduce it into sapphires. And it was not easy, because I used to get the train cutters from the market, and they were telling me, we cut in a certain way in a different factory, and there was a lot of confusion. And the Japanese people kept pushing me for quality, and I hardly knew anything about the industry. So I learned everything by getting into it through experience, right? Of course, I took the little bit of experience I had in the diamonds, and it took maybe 5-6 years for me to learn by burning my fingers, really, right? And then by that time, because of the Japanese clients pushing me for super high quality, for example, when they used to come and check my production, the Japanese guys turned the stone behind and they checked the pavilion, the culet, whether it's perfect. I'm like, that is not the face of the stone. You're not looking at the table, you're not looking at the crown facet. They said, no, if the back facets are okay, obviously the table is going to be good. We know that. And that's the kind of training that I underwent, right? So that business evolved, and then of course we were doing very small quantity, because Japanese orders were small but very high quality. Then came along the American customers who wanted much bigger quantity, right? Like I told you before, there was this one big stone dealer from New York. He said, I want 20,000 pieces a month, but the way you're checking your quality, you will never achieve that target. Then I said, okay, I would love to achieve that target, but I'm not going to change my quality. He said, we don't care really what quality, we need quantity. Of course, He was expecting a certain quality, but not the quality that we were trying to attain, right? So anyways, I told him, listen, I simply can't change my quality. Then he said, then you're not going to be one of the bigger suppliers to the US market, because you're too conscious about your systems and your quality and all that. You'll just have a small quantity. And he said the biggest reason, he said, I don't mean to intimidate you, but the problem we have is we buy 50,000 pieces from Bangkok, which was the market to buy the source at that time. When we have a parcel of 50,000 pieces, when we need to mix your 4,000 or 5,000 pieces, we cannot do it because your cutting is too good to mix in that big production. So what they said was our stones were cut too perfectly, and we could not mix it with productions bought in Bangkok or wherever. The base of their parcels were stones from other countries or other sources, mainly from Bangkok. And at that time I still refused to change my quality and give the quantity. And now it's almost 24 years since. It's come to a position where most of the wholesale dealers, they cannot mix. It's not only me, even the other Sri Lankans cut very well by now. They cannot mix because the parcels are mostly Sri Lankan stone based today. The Bangkok stones or stones from other countries cannot be mixed with our productions because the base is our stone. So things have changed, and even my capacity has increased and the number of cutters and all that.